Hello, this is Yaro Starak, and welcome to the Entrepreneur's Journey podcast. Today's guest is Mariana Fataccioli. Hi there, this is Yaro Starak, and welcome to another Entrepreneur's Journey podcast episode. Today's guest is Mariana from Brisbane, my hometown. Now, you have to forgive myself and Mariana for having a bit of a Brisbane fest in several parts of this interview. It's always a bit of a nostalgia trip for me to talk to a fellow blogger who lives in my hometown. But I do recommend you stay put and listen to the entire interview as Mariana shares her very rapid success story, in particular using Instagram. Instagram is a very hot marketing tool right now. So if you want to know how to add Instagram to your business or potentially use it as the key traffic source for your new business, your new blog, this is definitely an interview to listen to. Also, make sure you go to interviewsclub.com and enter your email address to subscribe to my EJ podcast newsletter. That means I'll send you every new interview of the EJ podcast I release as soon as it's published, so you get it first, and you'll also get a series of my very best interviews that I've ever done. So you'll always have fresh inspiration, fresh stories from other entrepreneurs and bloggers. That's interviewsclub.com. For now, let's dive into the interview with Mariana. Hello, this is Yaro Starak, and welcome to an Entrepreneur's Journey podcast. And I'm looking forward to today's guest because she is from Brisbane and she runs a blog. I'm from Brisbane and I run a blog, so we have a lot in common. Although my guest today, whose name is, I've been practicing this, Mariana Fataccioli, and Mariana runs a food blog called Skinny Kitchen with skinnykitchen.com.au as the website address. So it's obviously Australian focused, but let's find out all about this. First of all, Mariana, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
So we were just talking about your name for a moment there. Now, it sounds extremely Italian to me.
Yes.
Are you telling me you're not Italian though?
No, I'm South American. So it's just my ancestors migrated from Europe over to South America and landed in Peru, fell in love and reproduced, and that's
right.
And then and then in 1990 my parents came over from South America because they just weren't in, it's still not in the best shape, and so they just wanted a better future for us, and we moved over with just us and a couple of $1,000s in our pockets, and here we are.
Did you choose Brisbane first? It's not usually the first people's choice for Australia, but I'm always happy when it is.
Not. Well, okay, so I've asked my parents this question as well because it just seems like Sydney is a logical place to go. But they said that there were a lot of Hispanics over there, and they did want to go, except my mum feels a cold a lot. And just for medical reasons, we came to Brisbane because it's ridiculous hot. So
yes, sure is. It's kind of the reason why I've left Brisbane at the moment. It's getting too hot for my liking. Yeah. I should probably get us back on topic though, and
cool.
Explain why you're here. So
yes.
Skinny Kitchen is a food blog that Mariana started and had a very successful first year. So she's known, well, for two things: the blog itself, which Mariana told me she made almost 100,000 in her first year of blogging. And her Instagram following is impressive as well. Now, just to get the numbers right on this, your Instagram following as we talk is over 370,000 people. And within the first 6 months, you got straight to 100,000, which I got about 800 on Instagram. So I'm not doing something right with Instagram. I sort of stick to blogging and podcasting, I think. But I enjoy it, but it's clearly a big traffic channel for you. So I'd love to talk about how you started your blog, how you made 100,000 in your first year, how you did Instagram. But before we cover all of that, can we go back in time? Now, you're not that old, but you've obviously grown up I'd like to say it's an entrepreneurial city, but Brisbane's not necessarily that entrepreneurial. But you've grown up in a country where you have opportunities to do your own thing. So did you have any other businesses in your brief history before the current one?
Kind of. I half-assed them, so I wouldn't really label them businesses. They were just fun things to do in my spare time that would make me money. I think what mostly impacted this journey is that my mother is entrepreneurial, and we just come from a long line of entrepreneurial women who just don't want to be in jobs and told what to do.
Right. What did your mum do?
So at the moment, she has 3 businesses. She has a sewing school, which has been running for about 17 years, a clothing alteration store that's been running for about 8 years, and a pattern making business for like small to medium designers within Australia.
Okay.
So it's fashion related. So my background's actually in fashion, and I've worked in her businesses and saw her build it from an idea to what they are now. And so pretty much all of my inspiration and my journey has been because of her. Seeing how, she brought ideas to, fruition. But also the way that I'm running my business now is I'm trying to make it, I've built it from the very first day. I just knew that I didn't want to be working in it. How do you say it? Where you just, what's the word? When you're working in it every single day until you die.
Right.
I just want to systemize it so I can eventually not have to work on the business, but I can work. In the business, but I can work on the business. Mm-hmm. So I can be the one who makes all the decisions while there are other people working, 9 to 5 to make it happen.
Which is what you probably saw your mum do, right, with her businesses.
Yeah, and so I would see her when I was younger. I'd see her, wake up at 6 a.m., work all the way through to the next day at 1 a.m. and just wear herself out and raise kids at the same time and cook and clean. I have no idea how she did it, but I definitely don't want to replicate it.
Right, impressive. So the experience you had the early days of playing around with ideas, was it all online, or you just sort of playing with eBay or playing with an Etsy store or something like that?
So I studied fashion, and when I first started my first little business, it was just producing cute little clothes, which I would sell at the markets. Which went quite well. And I only did that for about 6 months, but I, at the time, was overworking and I just didn't have enough time to do it. So I just thought I'd leave it until I pick it up later on. After I finished studying, I started a fashion blog, and that got quite popular really quickly. But I didn't have... You know what? I think it's the partnerships and the connections and the networking that I did, because I did it quite early on. And so I only did it for about 6 months. And I think it was just a different idea from what was out there. So normally fashion blogs are like, this is what I'm wearing today, and this is what brands I'm constantly using, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas mine was more of an intellectual approach to fashion. And for example, why hemlines this season have gone from ankles to over the knee, and it's very intellectual because it's the way that trends are forecasted. They use what's happening in the global economy, with all different environmental factors and financials, all that to sort of, eventually have like a visual of this is what fashion is, what's happening in fashion.
Wow, that sounds like almost like an economic study to find out what people are going to be wearing next.
Well, there are massive companies that are doing this and make tons and tons of money. And so big designers are usually looking to those companies as to what forecasts are coming and use them as like starting off points for the next collections. And so they're usually doing collections a year and a half in advance. Anyways, very nerdy.
Yeah, from a fashion point of view, yes.
Yeah, and so I started a fashion blog, and it was just a very different concept, but obviously bringing it to like modern day terms. And I think it's just because I did the networking with the right PR companies, and so they were also. It was when sort of blogging was starting to be on the up and up in about 2008, 2009. Where people were understanding that blogs were, bloggers were the way to go in terms of marketing, because you can sell your product through an authentic voice that people are following and are really engaged with. Whereas, for example, TV, you're just staring at a screen and you completely blank, your mind's not even working. And so if you're reading a blog or you're following a person, for example, Kim Kardashian, and you're really engaged with that person, all of a sudden when they say, oh, I use this hairspray, or I've been wearing this perfume, you know, it triggers something inside of you because you have that emotional connection to that person or brand or whoever it is, that you at least are incentivized to maybe think about it or buy it. And I guess it's just another opportunity for brands to create a user experience right from the very beginning, where they have a platform to, I guess, to engage with the customer. Yeah.
So you've had this success with the fashion blog, and it sounds like you know what you're talking about, and there was a whole world of possibility there. But only 6 months. What happened? Why did you stop?
I burnt out. So I was overworking, and I was still finishing studying. There was just a lot of things going on for me.
Okay, so it was the first one that had to go.
I wasn't very focused at all, just because I get very excited about lots of things, and so it's just been a very big entrepreneurial journey for me, and to realize, you know, who I am and how I function, and the best way to manage how I function, because it's not always the most organized. I'm not a very disciplined person, but there is a side of me that if I can just lay out guidelines for myself, then I am able to focus my energy and my passion and just drive it and have massive success.
So it sounds like you kind of discovered that on the flip side of burnout, right? You discovered what you work best, what sort of business you need to have. So did that, again, did you go straight to blogging again? Was that the transition, or was there something in between the fashion blog and the current food blog?
There wasn't really. My plan at that point in time was I'd finished my studies with fashion, and I wanted to do my master's in fashion in Italy. And so at that point in time, I just thought, okay, well, I need to make money. And so I started working full-time and saving as much as I could. And I guess the dream for me at that point in time was to be a fashion editor for, you know, one of the bigger magazines, Vogue, Harper's Bazaar. And I sort of created a path in my mind of, this is how I'm going to get there. And so whilst I was working full time, I was also using my annual leave to go and do internships in Sydney with Harper's Bazaar and other magazines. And in one of those times, I was only there for 2 weeks. And when I went in, I was just a normal, I guess, intern. And within 3 days, I ended up being, I guess, the manager of all the interns who had been there longer than me. I guess just because I just had a better idea of how things should function, and the person above us just wouldn't be around too much to help out. So I just stepped up in my first 3 days. And by the beginning of the following week, I was organizing diaries for the stylists who would come and go. And by the end of that week, I was going to their appointments and doing styling sessions. And I just thought, if I can do this in 2 weeks, what could I do if I had absolutely no limits? And by that, I mean someone above me saying, you know, just saying, you know, this is my role and what I need to do. As in, when you're in a job and you have a job description, a lot of companies don't allow you to go outside of that because they have a system, which I respect. But I'm very much creative and I don't like to have those limits. And so I just thought, well, what if I did something for myself? How would that go, and what would my future look like?
So you left the internship?
So I left the internship thinking, I think that there's more out there for me. And my mind is just always going, and I always have all these great ideas, all these business ideas and things that I think should be done better, and someone needs to go out and do that. And so by this time, I had been on my health journey for about 3 years. So this is something that we'll probably go back to. So I got sick while I was studying.
Is this part of the burnout?
No, it should have
Okay.
been. It should have been a good indication that I needed to take care of myself, but
Right.
I just didn't get it.
Okay.
I just keep going. But at this point in time, I was 3 years into my health journey, and I had just realized that it was frustrating, and being healthy just felt like a burden, only because you go online and there's lots and lots of information about what health is and what it should be and all these diets and everything, but it just gets so overwhelming. And all these different, like, there's lots of great bloggers and authors who are creating these amazing recipes. But my experience was, I'd find one recipe by one blogger, another recipe by another blogger, more information on certain topics, and I'll just have lots and lots of tabs open, many windows open, and I just thought I must not be the only person who's doing this. And aside from that as well, every time I'd go to buy health foods, I'd need to go to one store for my flours, another store for maybe superfoods, and another store for something else, and then the gym supplement store for my protein. And so at that point in time, I just realized that it's just too hard, and it'd be awesome to have everything all in one place. Originally, Skinny Kitchen was just meant to be a recipe, like a big recipe database from lots of contributors all over the world. But I ended up getting a government grant, which required me to be able to monetize the business from day one. So I thought, well, if that's the case, so why don't I just have an online store, and it can definitely be like an all one-stop shop.
What was the grant?
It's NEAS. It's called New Enterprise Incentive Scheme.
I was on that too.
Oh, you were?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
A long time ago, I was on that. Not with my blog, though. I had a proofreading company prior to my blog, and yeah, it was good. It was basically getting paid to run your business, which I assume is still the same thing, right?
It's exactly the same thing. So I just needed the startup cost for my business. I only had about $3,000 saved up. And so one requirement to get into that is that you need to be on Centrelink. And so I don't think many people know this part of my story, but I was actually fired.
1 second, Mariana, before you keep going, for those not from Australia, Centrelink is unemployment benefits. And I have to say, that was the one requirement I hated about the system, because I never had a job and I never wanted to look for a job. And the idea of going for unemployment benefits was sort of counterintuitive to the whole entrepreneurial desire, right? So,
yes,
but you have to do it to get onto the program, right?
Most definitely.
Sorry.
And so when you're right. And so when I heard about it, I just thought, well, it sounds like a great thing to do, but yeah, exactly the same. I just did not want to go on Centrelink. I just felt like it was going to kill my soul. Yeah. Anyways, so
but you did.
I did. So I got fired for the first time in my life, and it was horrible at the time, but it was the biggest blessing in disguise, because if I hadn't been fired, I'm stubborn, and so I would have just stayed in that job, which I hated anyways.
What was that job?
So I used to work for Mercedes.
Okay, I'm getting confused. There's a lot of interns and a lot of jobs and different things over. You're doing a lot of things at once, I'm assuming.
I always do a lot of things at once.
Right.
So this was when I was saving to go overseas and do my master's in fashion
in Italy. Gotcha.
So my full-time job was at Mercedes, and I switched from one Mercedes to a different one just because I wanted a job with more responsibility and more pay. And yeah, that was a catalyst for me just going full tilt on my dreams, I guess. And yeah, because otherwise I was just doing it like at nighttime. So I was, researching websites and doing some marketing research, learning about branding. And so nothing of what I'm doing is my industry at all. I've just had to learn it from scratch.
All right, let me just collect everything so I'm up to scratch. So your family, your parents are immigrants from South America, Peru. So you've got that background with an Italian family name. And then you watched your mom do these businesses. You've then gone to university. Because your mom was in fashion, so you obviously cared about fashion too. And you went to university, did a fashion degree. Meanwhile, you're also working, no doubt, several jobs and all kinds of different things. Then you start your fashion blog. You're doing too much. You burn out. I'm assuming you're in your early 20s for all of this as well still.
Yes.
And then you decide after the internship and you get this realization you want to have complete freedom, you still have the Mercedes job, right? At that point, I'm assuming, were you doing an internship at the same time you're doing Mercedes, or that came after the internship?
No, same time.
Okay, it's all the same time. So you really do everything at the same time. So then you get fired from Mercedes, and you get accepted into Nice around the same time, the employment government grant. So you're being told now you have to work on your business full time, and we're going to support you a little bit with some money and some mentoring. And at that stage, you'd only just started the skinnykitchen.com.au blog, initially as a recipe database, but now you decided I have to sell something to make money to meet the criteria for this grant, because they want you to show income with the grant. I remember that myself. How old were you then at that point? Where are we at now?
26.
Okay, and so that was not too long ago, I'm assuming. So this is your first year of business?
2 years ago.
Okay, so that was your first year of business then. For the current blog.
Yeah.
All right. So let's dive into that first year of Skinny Kitchen.
Cool.
How did it?
Okay.
So can I just clarify one thing? Because everyone always wants to know this. Do you do everything yourself? Like, did you, register a domain name, set up the hosting, choose a theme for your blog? Are you on WordPress? How did you pick the name? All these sorts of technical things.
So yes to everything, which is probably not helpful to everyone who's listening.
Well, we all start there.
Yeah, exactly. However, if I was to do it all over again, I would go on Odesk, which is now called Upworks, and I would have had people set it up for me, so I would have done it faster and it wouldn't have been such a headache. But yeah, so because I had my previous blog, the fashion one, I did have a lot of experience in getting a domain, getting a theme, setting it up by myself. And so the old blog was on WordPress and the new one is on WordPress as well. So I literally Googled everything, and that's how I learned.
Do you write all the content yourself as well?
So far I do. I think it's something I should be outsourcing now, only because I'm at a phase where things are going to the next level, and unfortunately I don't have too much time to continue doing the content. So I'm looking at outsourcing that as much as I can, but without losing the authenticity of our branding.
But when you started, obviously, there's no funds to hire anyone, so it's all about you.
Yeah, that's right. So I try to keep as much as I could to invest in products for when I had the store.
So tell me about the store. So I didn't realize the store was from day one. That's normally, you'd build an audience and then add a store as a way to make money, but you had the store from the beginning. So to me, that's really daunting. Finding product, e-commerce, not on top of that, building an actual audience to sell things to. So you're kind of doing two things at once. Can you explain how that all came to be?
Well, I didn't have the products until probably 6 months into it. So initially I just, while I was going through the Nice program, I had already had about a year and a half of notes, I guess, of what I want the website to look like, how I want it to feel, the reason why I'm starting it up, and what it would eventually become when it became massive. And so I started my Instagram in about July 2013 because my first thought was just like what you said. I thought, well, if I need someone to sell to, because if not, it'll just be my mum buying from me, and that's depressing. And so I set up my Instagram, and I had been on Instagram for a year prior, and I had been, because I knew I was going to do Skinny Kitchen a year prior, I just thought I need to learn how to be good at this. And because I saw that Instagram was a great platform, but no one had thought of it to use it as a business at that point in time. At that point in time, it was just for selfies, I guess, and food pictures. And so, so a year prior, I was on Instagram and I was trying my absolute best to grow an audience, but on my personal account. And
so it was mostly selfies then, right?
Yeah, definitely. And so it was not until, when I started the Skinny Kitchen account that I realized that you can't have an Instagram account and expect it to be huge if you don't really have a reason why people should follow it. As in, if it's me taking selfies, like, who cares? But if it's something that benefits people on a daily basis, whatever it may be, people tend to follow causes and reasons why, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. So what was your cause?
Well, mine was that healthy, what is it? What do I say? I normally say to inspire. So it's
obviously healthy food, because I'm looking at it right now. You've got
it is.
It's a lot. You're making me hungry when I look at your Instagram. It's Instagram.com/skinny kitchen for those listening in, and it's making me very, very hungry right now. So it's obviously a lot of food.
Yeah, definitely. It's to inspire creativity and abundance through healthy living. That's what it is.
Okay.
And so initially, like, when you think of being healthy, you think of diet. So you think of garden salads and just mundane, boring food. My approach to health is that you can have it all. Like, you can have pancakes, you can have muffins, you can have it all. But it's just the way that you make it, rather than making it from flour and sugar and milk. You can make it from bananas and oats and honey, and so it's just interchanging the ingredients, but you can have it all, and you can be satisfied by living a healthy life. And so that's where my approach to health is, and I wanted to promote that visually. And so if you're on my Instagram and you scroll all the way back down, it doesn't look so pretty, and so it's been an evolution of how I want to present it, but that's always been the main thing.
Mm-hmm. And how did you, let's stay with Instagram for a while. I still want to go back to your shop as well, but with Instagram, how did you, like, that's an insane amount of followers in a year, in 6 months, 100,000 in 6 months. Was there anything strategic or tactical? Did you get a lot of exposure points from other people, or was it just people sharing your photos?
So it was both. It's more people tagging their friends and telling them to cook that for them. So it's people being really cheeky, and and that's exactly what I wanted to create, in my community environment. I think the one thing that I relate it back to is just having a reason why, and the way you're trying to show your brand in a visual way, especially because Instagram's a visual platform. Initially growing my following, I started with hashtagging. So you're allowed a maximum of 30 hashtags on each post. And so I'd concentrate on like a main 20-ish, and then I'd leave 10 to specify on that particular post. And so at that point in time, I was typing each and every one out every time I would post. But now what I do is I just copy and paste. I'd have my normal 20 and copy and paste, and then you put it in the comments. And so what I tell anyone that asks me now is, if they want to grow a following, just have those 20 and then, add, another 10 every time that you post, put it in the comments. And so if you're not like me, who tries to post like 3 or 4 times a day, you can just delete that comment, put the hashtags back on, and then it will bring your post to the top of the hashtag list and get more exposure.
And where do you source your photography from?
So with these, with most of my pictures, I collaborate with lots of authors who create those recipes. And so because Skinny Kitchen is purely a community-based business, and that's how I want to center it around, I have lots of different people who want to contribute to, I guess, the community. And in that way, because there's only so much that I can cook and take photos of and everything. So I just thought a way to do it faster, and also to uplift people who are actually passionate about what they're doing and who are doing it better. And maybe they might have, 300 followers or so. It'd be great to put them in the spotlight and praise them for what they're doing and give them a bit of credit and give them exposure as well. I think that's just how it should be. I use my platform to not only promote healthy living, but promote those who are, trying to get their voice out as well.
Okay, so even during the early days, you were, correct me if I'm wrong, primarily the growth came from very consistent hashtagging and sourcing fantastic photographs, but from people, not, as well as yourself, making food, but other people making food, and they were posting on Instagram, and you sort of collected your favorites from other people. It's almost like repurposing is another word for this. Collating sort of everyone's best food pictures and sharing it on yours. So you kind of benefited from that. Okay, that's interesting. It shows how much growth Instagram has gone through in recent couple of years too. Just that's, I won't say that's it, but that is it. It's kind of how you've managed to grow to such a large following.
Yeah, exactly. And so, for example, I'd feature someone and then that person would be like, oh, I just got featured on Skinny Kitchen, and share it with their people. And so within a day, I could have exposure of thousands of people when my personal account would have been only a couple of hundred or so, you know? And then within that as well, there would be people who would be tagging their friends saying, oh, this is what I was talking about the other day of, how to use this one product, or, hey, make this for me on the weekend. Instagram and social media is just generally just shareable. Like, you just have to make it as shareable as possible. And so keeping that in mind, I try and share as much as I can, and then people share within that as well. So I think that's been the catalyst of my growth.
And yeah, exactly. So with the growth, has the Instagram channel obviously been the number one traffic source to coming back to your blog? Is that right?
Yes, definitely.
So, and how do you do that? Just for people who kind of don't understand the connection, how do you bring a person back from an Instagram profile back to a blog to potentially become a customer too?
So I wasn't doing it very well initially, but at the moment, the way I'm doing it is, so pretty much all my posts are food and recipes. And so I'll list the recipe and the ingredients, and at the bottom I'll say, you can find these certain ingredients on my online store. Please click in the bio for a direct link. And so then people go to the biography of your Instagram profile, and it just clicks directly to the store.
Okay, so I'm looking at a vegan hamburger right now. So it's got a wonderful picture of a vegan hamburger. It's got the recipe to make it, and it's got the person who came up with the recipe as well. And then at the bottom, actually, you don't have a link, I don't think, in this one to your own profile.
Does it say visit my
Let me see.
profile?
Actually, you do say visit our health food store in the bio. Okay, so it's in your bio for health ingredients and express delivery. Haven't shopped with us before? Use the code newbie for $10 off your first order. Hashtag Skinny Kitchen. Okay, hashtag Skinny Kitchen Savory. Okay, so basically you're very direct. You're saying buy this stuff at our store. So and I can see how this works now because you've got a following. So it's something for someone else to be featured on your Instagram. But during the early days, when you didn't have a large audience, I'm assuming the growth would have been a little bit slower because when you featured someone, for them, it was like, well, Skinny Kitchen is not big yet. So it's not such a big deal for them to be on your Instagram. Is it a case of just slowly growing at the start, featuring a few people, adding a few hundred, then a few hundred more, then a few thousand, and it sort of just compounds? Is that how the growth works?
So initially I started just with hashtags. And it was slow to an extent. But like I said, actually at that point in time, I couldn't repurpose those hashtags again and again. But I think it's after probably around 2000, that's when people who I didn't feature at that point in time, they would just say, I love your account. I'd love to feature you with, my people, because I think that they would love to know about you. I was hoping you would do the same for me. And so, I'd look at their account and I'd be like, yeah, we have similar values and beliefs. And so definitely, why not?
Is there a word for that? Like a phrase, Instagram swapping or something?
Shout out.
Shout outs. Okay.
Or sometimes if you're a new account, because it doesn't happen too much on mine, but if you have a smaller account, people will refer to it as S for S. So SFS or S, the number for S.
Share for share, is that it?
Yeah, share. I guess so. Share for share.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's probably the lingo.
Yeah, exactly. And so I would always like to talk to the person first and create a relationship. And so, yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong. Then, as you get larger, you can get more share for shares from other larger accounts. You kind of get to grow because they won't feature anyone unless you're sort of around the same size. Is that kind of what's happening?
Yeah, that's right. And so that happened for a little while where it was just a share for share, and it would be, for example, I'll advertise you for an hour if you advertise me for an hour. But now those share for shares are now, if you get me 500 followers, I'll get you 500 followers.
And so it's quite specific.
Yeah, it is. And so then you have to count it and everything. And you have to be there monitoring, how many followers. It's a little bit annoying.
No
so
doubt.
I'm actually not really too heavily involved in that anymore.
Well, you're lucky because you're big enough now that you can sort of decide what to do, right?
Yeah, that's right. So,
all right, that's interesting. Thank you for the insight. I was always curious. I know there's a lot of swapping going on with Instagram accounts, and I know a lot of people are making money from it as well. Let's turn our attention to your blog then. So your Instagram account grew quite rapidly, and can you take us back first to the setup of the shop, and how you supplied the product, how you, because I'm assuming you don't have like a garage full of all these products, do you?
I do.
Okay, so this is awesome.
Well, it's currently like our rumpus room.
Okay.
Yeah. But initially I had a 1-bedroom apartment, and it was, for a little while, it just occupied one unit, like a storage unit. Not a storage unit, like it's a shelf, storage unit shelf.
So did you just buy product at wholesale? Is that how you did it?
I tried to. Some I was able to, and then some I would have to go overseas and buy it at like a discounted price, but it wasn't a wholesale price.
Okay. So that's probably been a big job to begin with, sourcing product then.
Yeah, most definitely. And the thing with that is, because I had a year and a half on Instagram, I was on Instagram a year and a half. Skinny Kitchen had 6 months on Instagram before we had the actual store live.
Right.
I had sort of seen what people were using the most or loving. And so I guess I did a bit of market research to know what would actually sell. And so I only had $3,000 to start off with, which sounds like a lot, but when I saw what it actually bought me, it was literally nothing. And so I had to make sure that I was literally betting on the right things.
So your Instagram account was almost like market research for you to find out what was popular.
Yeah, most definitely. So it served two purposes, which was awesome.
Okay. So how did you set up the e-commerce part, the shopping cart on your blog?
So I went through themeforest.net, and there's a billion themes on there, and I just looked up a WooCommerce theme that would do what I wanted to do, and I could cater it to look like what I wanted it to look like. It was mostly, what I wanted for it was obviously the checkout cart system, but I wanted it to look clean and be simple. And so I just looked into the hundreds that were there and found one and set it up. It took me a few days, but got there in the end. And
then you put the products into the database, right? That's simple as that. And then they're live and ready to go. Is that how it works?
Yeah, so I had to take photos of all my products, because you're not allowed to repurpose other people's photos.
Right.
So I took photos of everything. I put it up, put the amount up, hooked up my PayPal to it, and just put it up live and promoted it to my Instagram account, and then we're off.
Okay. How did you go with that first promotion? How many sales did you make? Must have been exciting.
It was. So at first, for the first few minutes or the first few hours, I'm not sure if I got any sales, and I was nervous because I thought, oh my gosh, how am I going to eat $3,000 worth of health food?
Yep.
Like, that was my worst case scenario. I only thought about it when it was live. But I think I sold out in a day and a half. So that went really well.
Right.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it wasn't much products, but it was a couple of $1,000s that I made. So, yeah.
And then you bought more product.
Happy. Then I bought more product, but because I was capped with how much money I had, I sort of had to have everything out of stock for about a week until I could reorder Because it was on PayPal, I had to wait for my PayPal money to come through. Then I could order, and then it was a week later that I had more stock, and then I'd promote to my Instagram account, "Hey, I'm sorry about last week. We sold out, but now we've got more stock." And then we sold out again.
Yeah, it just keeps repeating, right?
Yes, and by we, I mean me, myself, and I.
Yes.
I keep using plural, sorry.
That's right. Everyone does that. Okay, so how is this cycle going for you? Because I can imagine every time you do it, you're making more profit, but then you're reinvesting profit back into stock. And how have you managed the growth? Are you did it just continue like that pretty consistently? And has it continued like that consistently?
It has. There are peaks within the industry, and so it would be going up and down. But initially, because I only had so much that I could work with, it all seemed to sell out. I'd have to restock, and it would be another week until I could sell again. And so the first thing I did was I added what's it called? Like a merchant ID and eWay, so I could get my money quicker.
All right, so no more PayPal. You took credit cards now.
Yes, well, I've got PayPal on there because people prefer to use PayPal as well. But I put on the eWay, the merchant ID, which is like straight credit card from the website. So I'd get my money the same day or the next day, and then I could just reorder as quickly as I could. Yeah, okay. And so did I answer that question?
Yeah, you did. No, that's all right. So it sounds very simple when you kind of recap what you've done. It's your Instagram strategy, which worked really well and still works, grew your large audience. You had a blog, obviously, as the sort of basic platform where everything is kind of connected together. You set up the store. You found out what people wanted to buy thanks to the Instagram account. Put some product in there, posted Instagram saying, "I got stuff for sale. Let's hope someone buys it."
Yeah.
Enough people bought it, and then that gave you money to buy more stock. And you've just been slowly kind of repeating that process, improving your systems, adding a credit card payment processor. Where are you at today with this? Like, do you still kind of spend your time focusing on Instagram and just finding stock and selling product, or is there more to it than that now?
Oh, there's a lot more to it now. So because of my following, there are lots of brands that want to advertise with me.
Okay.
And so we do that in different ways. And so it's usually through social media campaigns. But it's now venturing into blogging, and I think we might be doing events and things now. So I started to focus a little bit more on blogging and splitting out rather than just blogging on just random things. I'm now sort of creating like a digital publication. So it is blogs, but it's not going to be written by me. It's going to be written mostly by professionals who know what they're talking about, and they can be a little bit more specific on certain topics. And so we're now writing on beauty, nutrition, fitness, wellness, and lifestyle.
This is all on the Skinny Kitchen blog, or is this another publication?
So on the Skinny Kitchen blog, so I've split the categories up so you can then get more information on certain topics. So
you're basically running a magazine now with your blog.
Kind of. So I've turned it. So it's a little bit more professional, and it's less about me and less about me and what I think and what I've been doing. You know, it's not that side of things. It's more about information that people can take away, use, and add value to their lives. Mm-hmm. So I've got that. So that's almost like a little, I guess, like another revenue stream as to just the online store. And I have developed like a sort of 5-year plan, and so I'm currently in the middle of doing lots of crazy things. And one of the things is I want to open up a store at the end of this year in Brisbane. And so because it's probably 6 months away, next month I'm going to start doing selling at the markets. And just
which markets, by the way? I'm just curious.
Yeah, of course. I'm thinking, I'm going to definitely be going to the Rockley market.
Okay. But
then I want to do the Jan Farmers markets on Wednesdays. And and I think they do a Sunday market as well.
Yes, I think at New Farm.
Well, they used to do a Sunday market at New Farm. I'm not sure if they do anymore.
Oh,
I think
really?
they do it on Saturdays. Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, so I'm going out and I'm just, yeah.
We're having a very local conversation. No one else outside of Brisbane will have any clue what we're talking about.
Yes, I'm so sorry.
That's all right.
So, so I'm going to go out and going to have like a little market stall and just go out and sort of, I guess, put more focus on my Brisbane customer base so I can expand it and grow it so that when I do have my store, I don't have, once again, my mother just coming and buying from me. I've got people who actually want to come and see what we have and visit us. And so with what I'm doing with Skinny Kitchen, it's not like a health food store. I promoted it as a health food store initially, but I'm trying to figure out where we lie in the market because it's health foods, but we also have like sports supplements as well. And so we're somewhere in between where we're like a lifestyle store because health and fitness now go hand in hand. It's very rare that you can, well, not very rare. It's becoming more of a trend, I guess, that if you're going to the gym, you're eating well. If you're eating well, you're doing some kind of physical activity. And so that's sort of where I've seen a big success in what I've been doing because I haven't just focused on, health foods or sports supplements. I've just noticed that my market are a version of, like they're a mutation of both industries in one. And I haven't seen anyone in Australia, at least, target that market, which seems to be quite a big market.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
So I'd love to know then, what's sort of your typical day like? Because it does sound like you really want to separate yourself from the content production side of things. And you do like being, like you said, sitting on top and running the business, but not working in the business so much. And I can feel that coming through in what you're talking about. Now you're talking about setting up stores, but I don't see you running them. You're running them at the blog, but you're no longer going to write for it. I can imagine the Instagram channel at some point is going to be completely handled by someone else as well. But since you're obviously not quite there yet, you're still kind of building all this. What do you currently do today? Like, what have you done? Well, you only just woken up today, but what did you do yesterday? What's a day in the life of Mariana like?
Yeah, well, it's crazy because I'm focusing on so many different channels. I have to, I guess, separate it in my mind and try and focus on one thing at one time. So I'm currently trying to organize all the market stuff, and I'm trying to just do a little bit of like writing as well, but also trying to find some great writers who will be able to provide great content for anyone who goes to the blog and wants to know more about wellness or lifestyle and things like that. With Instagram, I personally run that myself because it's such a large audience. I feel like it's almost like giving a bank account to someone else. It's just as easy to change a password and then I will never see it again. So at this point in time, it's just me running it. And I have alarms that go off every few hours just to remind me to post something.
Right.
And so my life kind of runs on alarms at the moment. My Facebook page, so I've made a strategy of what I wanted to, like what things I want to be posted and when, and what recipes as well. And so I have a virtual assistant who helps me run that and my Pinterest. And so I have like a little strategy where I'll have secret boards on my Pinterest and I will pin recipes that I know my followers are going to love into that secret board. And then she goes in and then she schedules it in Facebook according to the layout that I've determined for her and according to the schedule that I'm currently playing with at the moment because, Facebook changes their rules and so you need to play their game. And so when they change, I try and change. And I'm currently fiddling with a few things to see how I can manipulate the engagement on there. What else do I do? Yeah, just always on phone calls, trying to organize things, chase people up. I'm currently changing freight companies. That's been a nightmare. So anyone who deals with freight companies, I apologize in advance. It's going to be crazy because it's hard to get the right price. And then when you get the right price and you're dealing with them, then some orders go missing or they don't get there on time or you put an authority to leave and then they don't leave it there and the customer gets angry at you. And so I do a lot of customer service as well. Yeah, so I'm like an Indian god that has all those arms without being blasphemous. That's how I feel like every day.
Right. Yeah. I can imagine it's pretty hectic, that growth period, and you have a lot of moving parts there. So just to sort of move towards the end of the interview here, Mariana, thank you for sharing so much behind the scenes. For a person who's looking to replicate your success, I'm trying to sort of kind of think what's been really crucial here. And it's pretty clear Instagram and the success you've had there has been the main driver for traffic, and thus the main driver for customer sales. And I don't know how you feel regarding people starting an Instagram today and trying to kind of do what you're doing within their own subject area. But what would you advise someone who's kind of listened to you and, 6 months to get to 100,000 followers, having buyers as soon as you open up a store? These are incredibly, quick results that I think a lot of people would be envious of. I know I would have been when I started as well. So how does someone new replicate, or how do you advise them to replicate that right now in the current marketplace?
I think hashtags are king. So definitely create like about 20 hashtags that you would use on your posts within your industry. So for me, it was, healthy eating, clean eating, healthy recipes, and all those bits and pieces. And then just keep reposting them every few hours, or, every day, every few hours, just so you don't have to pump out so much content, but you still get that following.
And you do recommend Instagram? Like, would you suggest everyone go there?
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, I think there was a article today that came out from, I think it was Smart Company, and they interviewed Jane Liu from Showpo, the big, she's got an online store and she's going crazy with it. And she grew her business on Facebook, but because Facebook have changed their rules and it's a lot harder to, for your customers or for your, for your followers to see all your content, she's sort of gravitated more to Instagram. And, she said that that's where the platform's at the moment. And I agree as well, because there's not so many rules, or there's not really many rules, or if any, on Instagram. And so it's mostly just about just leading people to your page. And when you do have your Facebook page, you have to make it appealing for people to want to follow you, if that makes sense. I mean, it sounds pretty obvious, but, just say someone found you through a hashtag. They'll look at your post and then they'll click on your name and look at your profile. You have probably 6 posts. Your last 6 posts will be the first ones to show up, and then obviously your name and your biography and everything. And people make quick decisions. And so if they see that and they don't like it, they'll just click off and continue looking through the hashtag. But if you have something that's really appealing and very consistent with your brand, then they're going to want to follow you. And so that's where I found a lot of my success. So it wasn't just the hashtags. Hashtags is how you get found, but then you have to keep them and keep their interest as well. So you have to know what you're about and always keep providing them that content that they're there for. Mm-hmm. And so the easiest way to know what they're there for is just to ask them. People are always so friendly and they'll let you know exactly what they like, what they don't like. And it's just as easy as asking the question.
Do you think, though, that, given that everyone's doing this now and it's going to become more and more crowded, that what's going to happen is similar to what happened to Facebook? People will migrate to Pinterest next, or whatever new platform comes? Or do you think because of the simplicity of Instagram, it's always going to be a viable platform, or will there be significant changes just based on your experience?
Yeah, well, I'm waiting for the day so Gary Vaynerchuk, who's like social media king, he says marketers ruin everything, and they do. And so Instagram, it's great for now and it's been great for the last few years, but it will be ruined at some point in time. But then you just move on to the next platform, I guess. And that's it sounds sucky, but it's just the way that it's gone. I mean, look at Facebook, and Facebook own Instagram. And so they're starting to now advertise, bigger brands like Maya and Target through Instagram and testing that platform out. So in a few years, it probably won't be as heavily guidelined as Facebook, but it will be definitely be a lot more difficult. And then by then there'll probably be another social media. It just depends on where your market is. So my market tends to be on Instagram and Snapchat. Facebook is a little hard. Everyone's on Facebook, but to get to that, to come up on their feed is a little harder. But yeah, you just go where your customers are.
And I did notice you have an email pop up for your email list, which is an asset that you can own. Like, I've always been a big proponent of capturing email for this exact reason. If Facebook dies, if Instagram dies, you're going to own your email list at the end of the day. So is that sort of in your mind? Is that why you are clearly focusing on email a bit too, right?
Yeah, most definitely. I just think as much information as I can capture to always be, I guess, somewhere. So I've learned this thing from a friend. His name is Jack DeLosa, and he runs a company called The Entourage, which is business education. And so one of the things that I've learned from him, which still stays in my mind, is recency and frequency. So if you can be in front of your customer if you're the most recent and the most frequent, then you're always going to be at the top of their mind when they're going to buy from, if they're, for example, for me, health foods, they want to buy health foods and I'm always recent and frequent, I'm going to be the first one in the mind for who to go to.
Yeah, that's a good point. So you basically try and capture as many contact points as you can so you can keep showing up somewhere in their mind, right?
Yeah, like a stalker.
Yeah, in a good way.
Yeah.
All right, fantastic, Mariana. I'm just going to suggest to people listening in, go check out skinnykitchen.com.au to see your store and your website, but also very importantly to check out your Instagram, which is instagram.com/skinnykitchen. And you can see how what you do and how you send people back to your Skinny Kitchen website. And that's a good introduction to what you do. And thank you for sharing all of that. Is there anything else you want to throw in before we sign off?
Not really. I feel like I've given my life story.
Well, that's what we try and do with the Entrepreneur's Journey podcast. So
definitely.
Congratulations on the success. I no doubt you're going to keep growing. It sounds like you've got some kind of different goals there. I did not pick you going to having a physical presence as well. I can see that's probably a bit of a personal passion project, not just about the money, I'm assuming. So, that's interesting.
Yeah. Well, actually, none of it's about the money. I mean, it's great to get paid, but I have a massive vision for where I want it to go. And so there's a lot of, it's kind of like, that image that you see of like an iceberg and you see like the tip of it over the water. And then there's like this massive thing at the bottom. That's basically Skinny Kitchen and me.
Right.
So there's lots and lots to come.
Okay. Well, I'll keep my eye on it. And no doubt everyone listening in will as well. Good luck in the future.
Thank you.
And for everyone listening in, if you want to grab the show notes and the transcript and everything to go along with this podcast, you can go to my blog, entrepreneurs-journey.com, or just Google my name, Yaro, Y-A-R-O. You'll also find all the previous episodes there. Thank you, Mariana. Thank you to all the listeners, and I'll catch you guys in the next episode. I hope you enjoyed that interview with Mariana and you took away plenty of notes on Instagram and having an online store and selling physical products, as well as just being inspired by another young entrepreneur using social media and blogging to have success very rapidly. I'd just like to invite you again to go to interviewsclub.com, which will redirect you to the blog page where you can sign up for the EJ podcast newsletter. That means any future interviews I release like this one, you will receive an email notification as soon as it's released and you'll get it first. You'll also go on to a series of my very best interviews that I've handpicked to send to you. So you always have fresh new interviews from me to listen to. Just go to interviewsclub.com, enter your email to sign up, and you'll hear from me again very soon. Thanks for listening. My name is Yaro Starak from the Entrepreneur's Journey podcast. You know where to find me. I'll talk to you in the next interview. Goodbye.